Hello, Talsi.
Hi there. Hi,
How are
Oliver.
you?
I'm great, thanks. Thanks for having me on air.
Let me just go live on Facebook so we can.
Uh-huh.
All right. So you are in where?
I am right now in Mexico City.
Wow. How's
Uh-huh.
that?
Oh, it's amazing. It's a very cool city. It's a very
Mm-hmm.
magical place. Very rooted in mysticism, the culture,
Ah,
which
that's true. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, which suits me fine. And it's a nice change. It's a switch up, from LA, but still close enough to LA, which is like home away from home as well. So I like to head back and forth between here and there. So it's perfect.
That's cool. It seems
Hmm.
I see your Instagram and it seems like you're having a lot of adventures. Maybe we could start by saying you're doing. I noticed that you have this thing called T-shirts and tarot. Maybe you could tell us something more about that.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so I've always kind of been very spiritual and
Mm.
always fascinated by the spiritual arts. And just sort of about a year ago, I started getting more and more called to do it full time because, as we know each other. We have a background in law. Um,
Yeah.
and I did like a complete 180 on my life, and like the spiritual side of me really started calling very strongly. And a lot of the gifts that I kind of had my entire life, like psychic abilities, started becoming very, very pronounced. So I had this
Mm.
call to kind of go and just like leave everything else and focus completely on my spirituality and start, offering that as a service full time. So I do tarot readings, and I do coaching, spiritual coaching. Uh,
Mm.
and yeah, I came up with my business T-shirts and tarot because, well, I'm always in T-shirts. I'm always in Jordans and T-shirts because I'm a bit of a tomboy. But also basically the name signifies to me comfort and being comfortable with yourself. Not to
Mm.
say that you have to wear a T-shirt. I think for me, that's how I feel good and how I feel at home with myself. But
Mm.
really, it's meant to just be emblematic of that whole comfort and coming home to yourself and being comfortable with yourself, whatever that means to you.
Mm.
So that was kind of the idea behind it. Yeah.
Cool. And I mean, for those uninitiated, so tarot readings is where people shuffle cards and they pick one and you do a spread and you do a reading, right? Is that
Uh,
how it works?
yeah, well, that's like a very simplified version of
I,
it.
I mean, it's one on one.
No, I mean, basically, so as I mentioned, I always had some psychic abilities. I'm an intuitive and I'm a psychic empath, so I feel very, very strongly feelings of people and I pick up thoughts. And basically, I use the tarot as a tool to tap into energy. So when I have
Mm.
clients come to me, they either come to me for like a general energy read or with a particular query or question or issue that they're dealing with. And I generally shuffle the cards and I'll deal out the cards as I'm sort of guided to. I don't have a format. Um,
Mm.
I'm not a traditional reader, so I don't like to work with traditional spreads. I basically will just shuffle and intuitively stop when I'm kind of feel like I should stop, and then I'll deal out the cards and I will use the cards as a guide for what I'm picking up, like the messages I'm picking up. I'll receive some messages from spirit and I'll pick up the energy of the person that I'm dealing with and I'll do the reading accordingly. And I'll just dish out more and more as I'm guided to. So there's no real format for it.
Cool. And do you use like particular decks? Because I myself, there's a point in my life I used a lot the Osho tarot
Uh-huh.
deck.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that was quite cool. I
Yeah,
used
there's
it to.
yeah. Sorry, go on. Yeah.
Now, I just found it like there was a time that I actually literally used it to make decisions.
Oh,
And I think it worked well for me
it
at that
really
time. Yeah.
it's amazing for that. I mean, you know what? Like the biggest, what I get a lot of clients coming to me saying, or people that have like never used tarot before, and they're a little bit kind of hesitant. They're always kind of worried that the tarot is going to decide something for you or tell you something
Mm.
that you don't want to hear. But I use it consistently, like you have done in the past, to make decisions even for myself. But the truth of the matter is, why it's so good for that is because it really often just reaffirms what you deep down know and what you feel. It taps into your intuition and works with your higher self. So really what your soul is feeling, thinking and wanting for you. So it's excellent for that. I do the same. I mean, I do tarot for myself every day. And I find it really clarifies situations and things for you. And in terms of what decks I use, right now I have 7 decks and I'm building. So I will use a number of different decks when I do a reading, and oracle cards as well. And there's no end to the possibilities with tarot in terms of like style, you know, and you would know that because you've played with tarot as well. But I have a very long wish list still of cards that I want to add to my collection. So it's fun.
Yeah, and there's something also, maybe I'll do it in the future. There's something about really, I wanted to get deep into the, you know, the Rider-Waite, the original.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
because the symbols there are quite rich. So, and maybe, yeah, if like a designer could reinterpret that for our time with different images, but still, yeah, I guess for people who don't know, it's not like when you draw a card, it's not binary because the symbols and the interpretation are rich that I have to interface myself with it. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm outsourcing my will to the thing, but actually that thing activates my will. Do you know what I mean? Is it? Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's right. I mean, it's an intuitive response that you have as a reader to the impressions that you're getting, right? So the way that you respond to the cards, and the cards tell a story. So like, and you will receive intuitive guidance and spirit messages with the cards that you're using. And basically the way that the card, the impressions that the card is giving you, they're like prompts. Do you know what I mean? To a message that you're receiving. And it's quite interesting. You did mention the Rider-Waite. Now the Rider-Waite is the traditional deck, and I still use Rider-Waite every day. And honestly, it's rare that with a client I won't use a little bit of the traditional deck, and I might start with it and I might add all the others as well for different questions and to clarify, etc. But the Rider-Waite is just straight up in terms of one, I think that I'm energetically very connected to it because it was my first deck and it was the deck that I practiced on. So it's very highly charged deck. So I really feel like some of the others I haven't worked with for as long or as much. So while they're interesting to do different interpretations, I don't find like the energy as fast. And the traditional Rider-Waite deck is amazing because really like the message that wants to get out comes out like that, you know. It's actually funny we're having this conversation because I was just on YouTube watching one of my favorite readers, and she was actually saying exactly the same thing. She was doing a reading with Rider-Waite, and she said how like the messages just fly out for her, and I feel exactly the same. It's and yes, they are the traditional images. See, I've got them here. I always have my cards right behind me. You know, they are the traditional, and they do have kind of their traditional meanings. But at the same time, you know, the different combinations that come out do give you, and because it's a personal impression of the cards, they, you know, it's there's no restriction to the way that you can interpret. Still, I believe.
It's very archetypical if we're going to use the psychological language.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly.
So, maybe you can, I don't know, if do you want to give me a reading? I don't know, this came to this is all unplanned, of course, like I just felt it.
Been hoodwinked to a reading, right? Okay, well maybe, why not?
If you feel it, there's nothing like the real thing, right? Instead of
Well,
I was listening to this podcast where they talk about aboutism, where people talk about things instead of real stories of what happened to me. It's not like about this. third person this idea instead of talking about this is my experience, this is what happened to me. It's an interesting thing.
Well, you know what? Why don't we just do? We'll pull out 3 cards for you. We'll do a
Yeah.
and see what comes out. Okay.
Yeah.
So normally I like to call in spirit. So, spirit of the highest truth and compassion. Cleanse these cards and give them new meaning. Turn away any negative energies or low vibrations that would interfere with clarity of the message. Please use me as a channel to deliver a message for Oliver today. We'll just do a general energy read for you, right? Okay. So, Spirit, what can you tell us about Oliver's energy? What guidance do you have for us right now? What is Oliver doing at the moment? What's in his energy? Okay, so then I would normally just shuffle, kind of meditate on the question. Shuffle until I feel like stopping, intuitively, kind of guided to. All right, so let's have a look. Wow, Queen of Cups. Someone's very much in their emotions at the moment. Okay. So I normally take out 3. I know you can't see the cards though. That's the problem, but I can pull them up. So you got the Queen of Cups, the Star card, and you got the Emperor card, okay? And then I usually will pull a card from the top of the deck and the bottom of the deck for the overall energy. It's kind of like the overarching energies that define the reading. So generally, I can give you a bit of a rundown of what the cards mean, but basically what I'm feeling for you at the moment is with the Queen of Cups, that's very much a card about emotions, and it's a very nurturing energy, okay? And then you have the Emperor card here on the other side, which is a person that's very much standing in their authority. They're kind of opposing energies in a sense because the Emperor is kind of quite controlled and very much standing in his power, you see. But the Queen of Cups is like a very nurturing, loving energy. Now, I know that it's a woman, but it doesn't mean, and I know that you're a man, but it's very much that you can be in that energy even as a man, okay?
Yeah.
And then you have the Star card here. Now, I don't know whether or not there's something emotional that you're dealing with at the moment that's requiring you to spend a bit of time healing and a bit of time in renewal, because the Star card can sometimes represent a period of renewal. And I just feel like opposing energies, there's an emotional energy, but there's a bit of this kind of standing strong and standing in your authority, okay? And it's possible that something has been taking up quite a lot of your energy. Maybe you've been putting in some work into something that you're quite emotionally tied to, and you're waiting on the results, and it could have been, and that could be why you're kind of taking a bit of time out to just center yourself and renew, because for overall energy, the Three of Wands generally represents someone that's put in quite a bit of work and they're kind of waiting for the results. Like, this is someone that's waiting for their ships to come in, you see? And then the Pentacles is a card that's about balance, okay? But it sometimes represents giving a bit more than receiving. So it's like maybe you feel like you've been putting in a lot of time into something. Maybe it's something that you're quite emotional about. I mean, we can clarify. I'm just seeing with the Queen of Cups that something's been taking up a lot of your emotions. And again, also the Queen of Cups can be a little bit overgiving as well. Sometimes she gives more than she receives. And that could be why you could be feeling maybe a little bit drained. But with the Star card represents renewal and rejuvenation. So you could be coming out of that energy. And this, like I said, is a card you see, it can have different interpretations, but in this particular context, this is how I'm taking it. This is someone that has possibly been giving, and maybe not receiving back as much as they'd like. And with that Three of Wands, you know, it's like maybe you've been waiting for something that hasn't kind of come through yet. But with the energy of the Emperor, it's like you're now deciding to stand strong and stand in your authority. And, you know, you want to get back that sense of balance. So I don't know if this is something that's relating to your love life or it's relating to life in general.
it's actually interesting because I'm in the middle of a 48-hour fast. So the last meal I had was, so it's Tuesday now in Sydney, 10 a.m. And the
Uh-huh.
last meal I had was Sunday,
Oh, wow.
6 p.m. Sunday. And it was after performing. So I performed with this group where we do like some body weather stuff. So we rehearsed the whole week last week. And
Mm-hmm.
then the culminating performance was Sunday. So
Right.
we performed, and then I had a meal with one of the other actors, and after that I started the fast. And on
Uh-huh.
Monday I just stayed home, and probably today. So it kind of, maybe that's what you picked up. I'm in this. So after being seen in the world performing, I went
Mm-hmm.
in and I withdrew from, and I did this. I was always meaning to try this fasting, but
Uh-huh.
I did it right at this time, and it's funny because I drink coffee a lot every day. So when I did the fast, it
You're
just
right.
hit me with all these withdrawals.
Uh-huh.
So
Uh-huh.
last night I had this massive headache, but I just endured it. And during
Uh-huh.
the night, I had this really lucid dreams, and I think emotions. And
Uh-huh.
I saw like I in the dreams I was interacting with people who are already dead, and it was like with my grandparents and my other old aunties in the Philippines, and I was just like interacting with them as if they were still alive. It was interesting.
Wow.
Those are the dreams, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So maybe that's what you picked up on. I'm in that,
You're
and
healing.
yeah, and I'm in my power because I choose this. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not like coming outside from a, let's say, a religious tradition that you have to do this. It's I chose to do the fasting, right? I could stop it
Mm-hmm.
now if I want to, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
not, obviously. Yeah. So
Well,
that's interesting.
well, also, I guess the fasting really it cleanses you and it gives you sort of
Mm.
a sense of clarity about things, you know. So maybe, and I don't know why you chose to do the fast, but is it maybe that you did feel like things were a bit out of balance, maybe physically, etc. You know, because we usually tend to do fast to reset things, you know, to get back
Mm.
centered. So that's possible that
Could
you know.
could be, yeah. But I'm also
Yeah.
on this streak of experimenting with different. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've taken nootropics and vitamins and
Uh-huh.
went on a keto diet. So it's like, but maybe intuitively my mind is you need this, and I haven't done it. So I'm always curious of not, things I haven't done I want to do kind of thing. I'm just curious about trying new stuff. Yeah, but that
Mm-hmm.
was cool. I could feel, actually, as you were shuffling, I could feel something was engaging. I don't know the way you shuffled. There are some.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, it's not just as I've said, as a reader, you know, when I use the cards, I'm not just using my intuition. I'm tapping into your energy, so it's
Yeah,
a cool experience, you know. So
yeah,
yeah, it's very powerful, very
cool.
powerful.
Now
Times, yeah,
I'm curious to know, like you said, you have always been spiritual.
yes.
Were you just like born like that? When did you grow up here in Sydney or somewhere else?
Yeah, so I was born in Sydney and spent most of my life in Sydney. I lived in LA for about a year, 10 years ago, and then I returned back to LA about 5 years ago 4 years ago for about 3 years. Now I'm in Mexico City. So I've kind of jumped around, but Sydney, born and bred. And yeah, I've always been spiritual in the sense that, you know, I've always had the curiosity for it since I was a very, very little girl. I even
Mm.
babysitter from the age of 2 that was like my personal numerologist, astrologist. You know, I had a natal when I was a kid, and we used to do seances, and she used to tell me all about everything, and I always loved it. I also found that I was hypersensitive
Mm.
to energy and emotions. I didn't know though at the time um, what that they were actually spiritual gifts. I mean, I basically felt a lot, picked up emotions, but I think, and I do speak with a lot of my clients about this, and I think it's actually a really good thing to bring up because it's something that a lot of people don't know, but may be in a similar position as what I was growing up, or because
Mm.
they may not have realized this. But you know, when you're highly empathic or highly sensitive, you can and do pick up the emotions of people around you, and you pick
Mm.
up energy. But the problem is when you're very young, or when you haven't kind of realized that these are gifts, or that these are strong powers that you have, you can misinterpret what you're feeling, and you can take it on as your own. And the mind will trick you in a way where, sort of, if you start to feel strange or funny or emotional, and it's, coming from somewhere else, and you don't know it, your mind may create a scenario that makes sense to your body. So this is like where you could get maybe paranoid, or you might get a thought in your head, like say some, classic example, if you're in a crowded place or a party or something, and you feel completely fine, and then all of a sudden your energy is just strange, and it could be that you're feeling something of someone nearby, but then, you might, if you're not aware of it, your mind might say to you, well, I don't know, I don't feel good, that person doesn't like me, or like it is, I know, because a lot of people have this, or I said something wrong, or I did something wrong. You might be having a conversation with someone, you might pick up some energy from somewhere else, and you might be like, oh no, you might feel very awkward, or you might feel like not confident, right, all of a sudden. And I found from a very young age, I was always kind of very up and down, emotionally, and not, nothing crazy, but I would just feel it, that I could shift like that. And then I had started having some crazy experiences where I started feeling things, and realized that I was picking up stuff from other people. So, I had, my brother died in a car accident when I was 21, and he was turning 28. And he was across the world. And I very, very clearly remember that I was with a group of friends, and we were all together, and it was the middle of the night, and I said, I don't feel well, something is wrong, and I need to lie down. And then the next morning I got a call that my brother had died in a car accident, and I worked out with the time difference that it was exactly that time when I hadn't been feeling well. So it's just, I think as you get older, and also as you get sort of a stronger and stronger pull to follow your spiritual direction, you just get a sharper sense of what you're feeling. So that's what happened. I started getting more of these kind of experiences, and also a stronger sense of what was mine and what wasn't. And my gifts just in tandem started becoming stronger, and it just kind of snowballs, I think. And then you work more and more with tools like tarot, and you get more and more interested in the study of things, and everything just becomes very pronounced, all that, spirituality, all the psychic powers, etc. So
I think you touched on two important things, that it's important for kids who have this gift to realize that it's a gift, because on one hand, I think it's sad that there's a lot of, from the materialist medical establishment, they prescribe a lot of things for kids to, I don't know, what do you call that? To stabilize their moods. And I feel so sad. Instead of having them deal with it, they just go take this, And maybe there's cases that's necessary, but I think the prevalence of it may be just that they're picking. It's not the kids themselves; they're picking things from the environment, but they haven't been taught how to have strong boundaries.
Yes.
And then instead of teaching that, they go get some Ritalin or something, which is really sad to me. It's a personal.
Absolutely. I mean, I've had this conversation with quite a few people actually, and like you said, I mean, there are cases, and I'm not at all this isn't a conversation where we're going to discuss the
scientific basis,
the scientific, and I mean, people who have medical problems, and there are people that need medication. So I'm not here to bash the medical industry, but I agree with you in that sense. Like I've said often, I think that if more and more people were aware from a young age of what it is to be empathic, what it is to be oversensitive, and understand that it's actually quite normal, and being able, like you said, to have boundaries, I think it would really help a lot of people, to compartmentalize their feelings a little bit and not let them completely be overwhelmed. And it is a gift, and it is something that, and we're all born with it. I mean, the truth
Yeah.
of the matter is that we are all born with intuition, and we're all born with empathy or empathic abilities. But the thing is, it's just a lot of us don't know it because we're very much sort of blocked. We're blocked by a distraction. You know, we don't sit enough. We don't spend enough time sort of alone, like trying to understand what these feelings are, and we're sort of too distracted by the noise of outside. So yeah, I mean, I do with a lot of my clients that are highly, highly sensitive, who are coming into the realization that this is the issue for them a lot of the time. I recommend that they spend a lot of time meditating so that they understand, you know, the difference between what's coming from them and what's exactly. I mean, it really requires just understanding yourself, you know, which a lot of people from a young age, you know, we're not necessarily encouraged to spend time getting to know ourselves or isolating ourselves. And only when you do, you can really know what's yours and what's someone else's, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So,
and I was just listening maybe a couple of weeks ago to this podcast, or it was also a video between Russell Brand and Brene Brown, and Brene mentioned her study. She did a study when she was doing her PhD on who are the most compassionate people in the world. What quality is present in the different most compassionate people in the world. And do you want to guess, or do you want me to say the answer?
No, I want you to tell me the answer.
and her answer was, so this ranges from priests to carers to mothers, and so it cuts across different social and age and cultural backgrounds. And she said the most compassionate people have boundaries of steel. So they really have strong boundaries. And it seems counterintuitive, but the way she explained it, they are able to be very compassionate towards others because they don't let others hurt them. Because once you let someone hurt you, it's hard to be compassionate, right? You have to.
I completely agree with that. I just think the way I would reword it in the sense that no, everyone does need to be hurt because we need to experience that, and we all have our own lessons and experiences that we go through, that then we heal from, and then we have an extra layer of empathy for other people. But I completely agree that the stronger your boundaries, the better a healer you are, the better you are at helping people, because you can't pour from an empty cup. So a person that is completely giving and has no boundaries and lets, you know, everyone's taking your energy from you, is not able to really help. You're depleted. And so a hugely important practice as a healer, and anyone that works as a light worker doing sort of the work that I do, is we really do need to work on our boundaries, and it's a never-ending. That's a big part of the work, is keeping your own healthy boundaries, keeping them strong.
And she did nuance it a bit. She said they come up with this acronym called BIG. So it's asking, what boundaries do I need to put in place so I can be in my integrity, so I can be generous towards you, so I can be generous. So it's the real aim is to be generous with the other person. And according to her, it's people who are compassionate with strong boundaries, they actually think that the other person is doing their best, and that's it. And so they're not judging the person. They're doing their best, but they're not aware that they're hurting me. So I need to pull myself out a bit so I don't get hurt, but still have love for that person without them hurting me. It's quite interesting. It really made me think about this. Yeah.
It's a fine line that you walk when you do this kind of work. Because, you know, as a light worker, I keep using the term light worker, but light worker really refers to anyone that dedicates time and effort into raising the vibration of people. You know, literally you are emitting a light. You're like a light force, because you take darkness and negativity and you transmute it into light, right? And healing energy and loving energy. But the irony is that as a light worker, you know, light does attract dark. So
True.
so often, yeah, not just people that you want to, and yes, because people, you know, dark energy wants to be transmuted to an extent. So people who have a lot of darkness in them, they are attracted to the light, and they're looking for that transmutation. And that is your job. That really is your job. But if you're completely overwhelmed by it to the point where you're giving all of yourself, you're not able to do that anymore because you're out of balance. You're not, you know, you can't. Your vibration lowers. You know, you have to keep your vibration at a certain level as a light worker to, right? And also, if it gets too low and it's consistently low, then you're just consistently going to attract low vibration and not able to manifest and create the life that you ideally want to create. And so then you just stay in a low vibration. It's a balance, because of course you need to be open to those energies to heal, but you also need to still consistently keep yourself vibrating at a high level so that you can look after yourself and your life and what you want to create. So it's tricky, isn't it? It's tricky.
And but I think it's where the most interesting things are. It's where you walk the edges. That's where the that's where the most learning could happen, I suppose. Which brings me to this question. I'm really curious about people like you, and you mentioned we both knew each other when we were young lawyers in this prestigious law firm in Sydney, and I knew from my own experience it was hard to let go of that, because this I don't know, social approval that comes from being a lawyer and working in this shiny law firm. And when I left, people were going, what are you doing? You had such a good job. You're in such a good place. It's so hard to get in there, and now you're just leaving. And you're leaving of your own accord. They didn't even fire you. You just want to leave. So how did you do? How did you manage the transformation? I'm sure a lot of people are there sitting in their offices, thinking about their passion, but you know, I don't know. It could be fear. It could be this conflict. I was just wondering how you navigated that to create and live the life you want now.
You know, great question. And you know, for me, and if you ask my mother or anyone close to me, I've always been very headstrong in the sense that when I make a decision about what I want, I really do. I mean, I've kind of always been like that. I've always kind of been, well, I mean, having said that, I'm more fearless now after all, you know, the journey that I've taken and the self-exploration that I've done. I'm fearless now in the sense that I really do follow my instincts and my intuition without a second thought, for the most part. And yes, back then I was a lot younger, and I think that there was still that fear element to a certain extent, but my connection to my higher self has always pushed me, and it's always overpowered any kind of sense of fear of consequence. But for sure, I think there are, like you said, a lot of people that do live in a state of fear, or maybe also just uncertainty in making decisions, because they, on one hand, they do feel kind of a call to do something, but then on the other hand, they're sort of like, you know, swaying back and forth between what they know and what they don't know. I think for them, I mean, if I had a recommendation, and this is kind of what I do with a lot of my clients, is, you know, you really do need to spend enough time with yourself and getting in touch with your intuition and make decisions from the heart, right? Which when you do, you're able to abandon all that fear of uncertainty, and you're able to, things become a lot more clear. So to take a leap of faith in making a change in your life is a lot less daunting when you're not distracted by outside noise and by fear, right? Which is often the mind. The mind is what creates fear. The heart, when you make decisions from the heart, it's quite easy. It's almost instinctive, you know, and it feels right. It feels very calm, and it feels very right. And I just feel like a lot of people are just maybe not able to kind of tap into that, you know, because they don't give themselves the chance, if that makes sense. You know, they
Mm.
don't take the time to meditate or to trust themselves. Trust things come up, and they're not so good maybe at trusting themselves because they're too distracted by
Mm.
what other people think and say, etc. So
Yeah,
that was a very
yeah,
round,
and
that
yeah.
was a long answer, but yeah.
No, no, it's. I was just getting some downloads as you were speaking, and
Yes.
yeah, it's important that, because if I really think about it, there's a whole community inside of me, right? There's
Right.
pools, and I need to converse with all these things inside of me, but I can't do that if I'm busy
Yes.
dealing with outside things. So I need to come in and see, okay. And I think the Greeks have this great idea of a daemon. You know, there's a daemon. When you're born with a daemon. It's just like it's like, in a way, it's like what the Christian conscience is, but it's more than that. The daemon is there to protect you, and apparently, it whispers to you, "Do this,"
Right.
and if you don't listen to it, it will shout, in the sense that it will do a major thing to wake you up, because its job is to protect you and put you in your path. Like,
Yes.
we hear all these stories. I was doing this, suddenly I tripped up and my leg was broken, and I was in the hospital for 3 days, and maybe they had that time to think, and then that's when they change. So it's interesting how, yeah, there's some wisdom
I,
from the ancients that we could use that
I,
we kind of forgotten.
I believe in that 100%. And you know, I mean, in my view, and what a lot of spiritual people will tell you that share similar views is that the soul has a path. Every soul has a path and a direction. And there's destiny. You know, we have karmic destiny. We've lived many lives, and the truth is that, you know, your soul path is determined by fate, but also free will. There's an interplay between the two. Now, the less in touch you are with your higher self and your calling, the less direct your journey is going to be to your ultimate soul destiny. But what will happen is the universe will continue putting you in circumstances or in front of people and in situations that present you an opportunity to move in a direction towards your soul destiny. But you may make decisions that are not the most direct route, that don't put you on the most direct route, or detour you a little bit. Ultimately, you end up at the same destination. That's why there's no such thing as wrong and right decisions, because everything is as it should be. And if you don't get closer to your soul destiny, your soul destination, then you've learned something, and that's what a karmic lesson is, right? So when you say that, you know, it's funny that people get this like wake up call, etc., something happens. Well, that's really like the universe is pushing you into a certain direction, or giving you a wake up call, as you described it, right? And sometimes people are presented with a wake up call, and then they decide, well, doesn't matter, and then they go and they keep that direction. But then, you know, it's only a matter of time. And you know what we call this? There's two cards in the tarot that very much represent these kind of moments. Well, one, you have the Wheel of Fortune, which represents karma, right? Like the wheels of destiny that are moving and they're pushing you in a certain direction. But of course, you still will need to make choices. So you'll either move in the direction of the wheel or move against it. And then you have a card called the Tower. And so when I get clients and we get the Tower, it's like, wow, big Tower moment, Tower moment, Tower moment. That's yeah, it really represents major, major realizations and changes. And it's when you're being called on a spiritual level to let go of the old, to make room for the new. You might be being called on a spiritual level to work out, you know, what's not serving you anymore, or what hasn't been working so far, and to free yourself up to move in a new direction. You know, it's the destruction of the old. So, yeah, I couldn't agree more with what you said.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. I was just thinking, you mentioned earlier about you're there in Mexico because of some, is it the land energies there, or also the culture, or the,
Well, to
is
be
there still the
honest,
presence? I haven't been to Mexico, so I'm not
right.
sure if, because like I've been to places like, let's say, Ireland, or in the UK, near the Stonehenge, or even here in Uluru, when you go there, I felt the presence, it's the it's still, what you call it, as the spiritual edifice is still there. It's
Mm,
like when I walk into it, there's something here, right? Like let's say in Ireland, and where they had this, they call it the long barrows. Like it's like a
mm,
mount, and then you enter, and certain times of the year the sun will go through
mm,
that tunnel. And when I and my friend, she was a meditator as well, we went there and we just sat there. It's just like boom. It's just like,
mm,
this is, to me, this is ancient technology, is spiritual technology. There's a
mm,
technology in how they built this thing. It's not just random, because there's a specific feeling when we were walking there. And it's fine at that time. Then we walked out, and
mm,
then this druid guy, there's some druids hanging around. It's so weird. And then he followed us and he talked to us. You felt something there, didn't you? Yeah, we did. And then he just said, good. And then he just had this look, and then, have a blessed journey. And he just went away. It's like, whoa, what was that? There's maybe he's still keeping that. I don't know. It just came out of nowhere
yeah.
with this his long beard. I think it was real. I don't think it was an imagination, but it was
Combination, something real and something imaginary. It was a bit of both.
Yeah, I think he was
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Yeah, like it definitely, there's something in the air here for sure. And people are highly spiritual. You know, it's a very Catholic country, but people are also very spiritual. We had a pretty wild experience visiting the witches' markets, which is
Which is
probably,
market. This sounds amazing.
yeah, they have everything. That's the thing. I mean, it's like culturally, people are very tied to the spiritual arts. They
Mm,
definitely are. And you know, there's a lot of historical spots. You know, you have a number of pyramid sites. Um, there's a lot of history here. There's a lot of history, and not just religious history with the Catholicism, but a lot of people that are very tied to magic from
mm.
culturally. So yeah, it's but I mean, you know, people might not know this or think this, but I think so about Los Angeles. You know, there's
Oh
something
yeah,
highly
yeah,
cool about Los Angeles.
yeah.
Um, you know, and I know it's now very trendy to be spiritual, but I think you know, it's genuine. I think there's something rooted in the land
Yeah,
there and in the air there. It's a highly spiritual place. So
yeah. Yeah.
it seems I'm drawn to those kind of places.
I agree. I had an experience in Los Angeles where I took the bus from San Francisco to Los Angeles, and
Mm-hmm.
then I arrived in that. I think it's the old town, right in the city where they have market still.
Mm-hmm.
There's that place. And then I got off, and I got chatting with this American Indian guy,
Mm-hmm.
and he said he came from Arizona, somewhere else for a funeral, and we just got chatting, and he's an Apache Indian, and he just got to chatting, and he said, "Oh, I worked as a paralegal." There's that law, and then we had the meal. He brought me coffee, and we were eating the meal in one of the I think it's like Mexican meal, I think we had. But anyway, we were eating, and then there's another guy. I think it was Cherokee. Went to our table and greeted him, and they recognized each other. I'm Cherokee, and it's like they were like exchanging this. It's like I was witnessing this ancient, and he knew everyone there, in the stalls. Apparently, there's a community that stayed. I think that area was one of the first places settled in that part of the world, and the people are still there. It's quite interesting. You have all
Wow.
this Hollywood, but there's still this
Yeah.
undercurrent of the old tribes, and people recognize each other.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
beautiful to see. Yeah,
It runs deep. It runs deep for sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Cool.
So
And
that's
yeah, the
we've done.
pregnant pause.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to say, or should we? Yeah, before we maybe put an end to this one, and we could always chat again in the future, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think if there's, I mean, if you want, next time we can pick it up and talk about, maybe we can go a little deeper about the tarot and everything. But
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah.
yeah, but
I'm, I'm just looking at Facebook, and someone said they want a reading. If they want a reading from you, what do they do?
if they want a reading from me, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so yeah, please do check me out. You can find all my details at www.tshirtsandtarot.com. So just check out my services. You can book me through there. You can follow me on Instagram. I'm at T-shirts and Tarot. Have a YouTube, but I haven't filmed one in a couple of months. But that's my plan, is I'm going to start doing my readings on YouTube as of this month again. I'm going to pick it up. I took some time out to just focus on my clients and and just kind of take some time out. You know, even us light workers, we have to take breaks here and there because
Yeah. You need to replenish, reconnect. Yeah.
lots of healing time. You know. Lots of healing time because things come up. Be cautious, everyone, because we have a very intense week. We have a lunar eclipse coming up. We go into full moon and lunar eclipse as of, I think, tomorrow. It's in Capricorn, so it's a time of lots of shifting. We also have 6 planets in retrograde, so there's a lot going on. Yeah. So,
That's why. That's why all this.
It zaps your energy. It zaps your energy. But yeah, so but back in the swing of things as of this week. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Check her out. And yeah, all right. And for the next deep dive, do I need to do something to prepare for it? Maybe I should get my deck out. It's somewhere here.
I don't know. Maybe we can ask the people watching if there's something more there's something they want to concentrate on. So for next time we can do something focused. Although I do love just chatting about everything.
Yeah, it's better. It's better. Just, let the spirit guide us.
we covered lots of ground. So
yeah, it's also funny when we felt that we both felt that thing that it needs to end. It's like funny. It's interesting, this intuition. Yeah.
Energy's energy.
Thank you, Talsi. This has been an absolute pleasure, and hope to see you again soon. Hey.
Yes, thank you so much, Oliver, and I'll speak to you soon.
All right.
Bye, guys. Bye everyone. Bye.
Hasta luego.